Minasan konnichiwa! Hey everyone, it's Aaliyah with Beyond the Frame, YouTube's #1 resource for everything behind the scenes of your favorite films, TV shows, and anime. And today we are talking about one of the greatest anime of all time, Shingeki no Kyojin, or Attack on Titan, specifically everything you might have missed in Season 1. Now, to commemorate the film Attack on Titan: The Last Attack releasing in theaters, this video marks the first of a 4-part series where I'll be deep diving into your favorite characters, themes, controversial topics that have left fans divided, and how the AOT creator Hajime Isayama spoiled the series without you even realizing it. Oh, and heads up, there are major spoilers ahead, so proceed at your own risk. Now with that being said, let's dive into Season 1 of Attack on Titan. When asked to sum up AOT in a quick sentence, Isayama-san had this to say: "It's a story about humanity on the verge of extinction due to the rise of man-eating giants." Which is a great summary since that literally captures episode 1. Now, I'm not sure if you caught this, but the episode starts with our main character waking up from what feels like a long dream, and in that dream, he saw several images, but there were 2 that I want to highlight. The first one is Eren, and yes, I say his name like that. I'm Japanese, the show is Japanese, so I'm gonna use the Japanese pronunciation. Now, if we pull up episode 1 and hit pause, we can see Eren looking into the future, specifically the moment Levi loses his entire squad in the forest. Then, to make matters worse, the other vision he has is when the Titan devours his own mother right in front of his eyes. So 2 huge bombshells dropped within minutes of watching episode 1, and we didn't even realize it. Something I only recently learned was when Pixie says, if something beyond man appeared before us as a powerful foe, mankind will take up arms together in unity. Wow, the creator really just handed us the finale, didn't he? But these hidden gems only continue as we look at Annie, Reiner, and Bertholdt. When they first make an appearance, we see a young Annie fleeing to Walrose, and within minutes of her arrival, we see Reiner and Bertholdt entering the city. And apparently, Isayama-san took inspiration for Annie's hairstyle from the famous musician Avril Lavigne. Now, following the trio during the first season, we see multiple instances where they were hella suspect. For example, remember when Connie was talking about the strange behavior of a Titan and how they can use its rampaging behavior to help them escape? Reiner asks Connie how much he knows about the Titan. Reiner was curious because he suspected that abnormal Titan could be a shifter. Another suspect moment was when the group was fighting the female Titan and Ardman advised everyone to keep their hoods up since the Titan wouldn't kill them unless she knew who they were. But despite this warning, Reiner kept his hood off so Annie would know right away it was him. Fun fact, Isayama-san said Reiner's Titan form is based on the body of former UFC heavyweight champion and pro wrestler Brock Lesnar. Going back to Annie, I think this was a very important spoiler moment for the show. The 3DMG, or rather, Marco's 3DMG. When Marco died, his 3DMG was nowhere to be found, and it's believed that Annie stole it during the cleanup. The reason why she could have done this is because when an inspection was held to see who had killed the Titans, Sonny and Bean, they would quickly be able to tell who had recently used their equipment, but because Annie had stashed hers away and switched to Marco's, no one would suspect she was the culprit. Except for Ardman, who noticed that Annie was using Marco's 3DMG, which is amazing. But he already had other incriminating facts against Annie, like the time the female Titan killed everyone else but for some reason spared his life, which would come back to haunt her later in the series. So, when you watched Season 1, did you know it was Annie right away? I mean, the blonde hair, blue eyes, and fighting style kind of gave it away, but let me know when you realized it was Annie in the comments. Now diving into the characters, I want to start with my #1 favorite character of the show, Levi. I love this character so much, I ended up naming my mom's dog after him, which is super funny because they are total opposites of each other. When creating this character, Isayama-san said he was just doodling when he realized this sketch could be something. Then he saw Watchmen and said the character, Rorschach, really stood out to him, so he wanted to create something similar, hence the birth of Levi. And if you're curious about Levi's backstory, wait no further. In 2024, Isayama-san came out with a short manga called Bad Boy that details Levi's childhood. The manga gives us a glimpse into Levi's love for his mother and why he always holds his teacups by the rim. The short version of the story is after a violent encounter to get his mother's belongings back, he poured tea in what is believed to be his mother's teacup, and as he held the handle, it broke, causing the teacup to shatter on the floor. He tells the story to Gabby and Falco, with Gabby vowing to always hold her cups the same way. And if you get a chance to read this short story, the Reddit comments are hilarious. Now, during interviews, as well as the AOT guidebook, Isayama-san confirmed that Mikasa and Levi are both members of the Ackerman clan, a genetically enhanced bloodline with unique combat abilities. Isayama-san explains that the Ackermans were created through experiments by the Eldian royal family to be their protectors, which also explains why Levi and Mikasa have superhuman reflexes and immense strength, aka their awakened power. And speaking of Mikasa, in an interview, Isayama-san said Mikasa was the first character he came up with, and his plan was to make her the poster girl for the manga, which we definitely see. He also said he based Mikasa's appearance on a woman he met while working part-time. He said he was inspired by the woman's scarf, hairstyle, eyes, and eyebrows. On top of that, Mikasa was originally designed as a Westerner, but because he was so inspired by this woman, he made Mikasa half Asian. And if you're wondering how he came up with her name, he said it's because he has this theory that characters named after battleships become popular. Plus, here are just a few fun facts about important characters from season 1. Isayama-san is known for being heavily inspired by pop culture, and this may come as a surprise to you, but Commander Edwin Smith was modeled after a Secret Service member who appears in Paris Hilton's 2008 music video, Paris for President? In the anime, Hanji is voiced by a woman, but in the manga, she is gender neutral. The reason for this is because Isayama-san felt like Hanji's gender wasn't important to the storyline, and he left it up to the readers to decide. Lastly, Sasha Blouse was originally meant to pass away after season 1, but Isayama-san's editor was so shaken up by her death, he ended up crying in the bathroom. After that, the idea was scrapped, and Sasha thankfully lived to see another day. Now, saving our main character for last, let's talk about Eren. The reason why Isayama-san decided on this name is because he said it sounded more feminine, which would make it easier to remember. And his full name, Eren Yeager, translates to Eren Hunter in English. Now, this next hidden gem I'm about to tell you completely blew my mind when I rewatched season 1. When the armored titan is mentioned, the camera pans to Reiner. Like, bruh, the creator knew what he was doing. Also, similar to Reiner, Eren's Titan was based on a pro fighter, specifically MMA fighter Yushin Okami, who fights in a very similar manner to how the Titan fights. During an interview, Isayama-san shed some light on Eren. He said, "That is a character I figured out as I went along. When the manga was adapted into an anime, I got to hear the character's voice, and it helped me better understand him. These Titans suddenly show up, and not only is he unafraid, but he goes out to kill them. That's not realistic, but when I heard the character talk, I could hear a weakness in the actor's voice, and that made it sound like Eren was bluffing, so I started to like the character more and more ever since." So, hearing this from Isayama-san, if you're like me, you're probably thinking of a few characters who sound very similar to Eren.
ガテン氷壁広域制圧や足止め
悪い悪いつい張り切っちまった
首を洗って待っていろ埼玉
And I would love to know who your favorite AOT characters are, so let me know in the comments. Before I dive into the phenomenal creator, I have to tell you about Attack on Titan's global impact. In 2014, AOT became the top-selling Japanese manga, knocking One Piece off the podium, which is insane. And if you just can't get enough of AOT, you can check out the parody manga series called Attack on Titan Junior High, which follows the characters from the main series but in a school setting. This eventually became so huge that it was adapted into an anime in 2015. It's so fun. I've seen it twice. Then, transcending space and time, Captain America and Spider-Man once fought Titans! It takes place in a crossover comic called Attack on Avengers. And then even the car company Subaru got in on the fun, creating a Japanese commercial that features a driver escaping the Titans who are chasing them. This just further highlights how popular AOT is, especially in Japan where you can see life-size Titans at Japan's Universal Studios. But as big as the show's become, Isayama-san couldn't have predicted all this, especially in the beginning. Diving deep into the AOT archives, there is a Volume 0, and this was his original story, which was unfortunately rejected by Weekly Shonen Jump in 2006. Volume 0 was written as everyone having Spider-Man-like agility, and no one had ever defeated a Titan until a Titan shifter came along. A bit different than the final version of Season 1. Hajime Isayama, the creator behind AOT, came up with the idea for Titans when he encountered a drunk customer at a coffee shop he worked in. He was inspired by their inability to communicate and realize the most dangerous thing is the human race. And oh man, does he make that clear throughout the series. Isayama-san is very vocal about his love for Western shows, and he said two of his favorites are Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad. He was so inspired by these shows, he created two key players as a memento. Falco was based on Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad, and Gabby was based on Arya Stark from Game of Thrones. But he was also heavily influenced by legendary manga writer Eiichiro Oda. During interviews, Isayama said his favorite characters are Jean and Reiner. In his eyes, Jean was created as a representative of humanity, a wavering and uncertain person who finds his footing through trial and error. Whereas Reiner, a character who suffers tremendously throughout the series, is someone who represents both sides, Marley and Eldia. And I think it's really important to know that during an interview, Isayama-san shared that Eldia and Marley are similar to the people and history of Germany and Rome from 2,000 years ago. However, this also led to a heavy dose of criticism and controversy. Several countries banned the show due to its violence, gore, and negative portrayal of Japan. In addition, many people criticized the series, saying it advertises fascist subtext due to the extreme nationalist and military perspective. They go on further to say the Marley arc is anti-Semitic due to the parallels of the Nazis and Jewish people during the Holocaust, whereas the other side counters that these parallels in Attack on Titan served as a commentary on the dangers of fascism, illustrating how such ideologies can fester, resulting in a devastating impact on society. But knowing all this, how do you feel? Do you agree with either side? Let me know in the comments. Now, the themes and concepts can be very intense in this show, as we know. In season 1, we see the vicious cycle of hatred and revenge. From the very first episode, Eren is consumed by hatred for the Titans after witnessing his mother's death. This drives him to join the military, but his desire for revenge blinds him to the bigger picture. The theme of hatred fueling conflict is also seen in humanity's distrust of Eren when he transforms into a Titan. Instead of seeing him as a potential savior, many view him as just another monster, showing how fear and hatred can cloud judgment. Then you have sacrifice and the cost of war. AOT does not attempt to glorify war. Rather, it highlights the devastating sacrifices required for survival. In the Battle of Trost, dozens of recruits die, emphasizing the brutal reality of combat. Pixies even discusses how leaders must sometimes make sacrifices for the greater good, reflecting on the moral ambiguity of war. There is also the struggle for identity and purpose. Many characters in season 1 struggle with their place in the world. Armin questions whether he belongs in the military, constantly feeling weak compared to his friends. Eren, after gaining his Titan abilities, faces an identity crisis. He wonders whether he's still human or just another monster. Lastly, we see freedom versus oppression. The walls are both a source of protection and imprisonment. Many people inside Wall Roads accept their fate, refusing to fight back, while others dream of a world beyond the wall. The debate between staying within the walls or reclaiming land reflects real-world struggles with oppression and the fear of the unknown. So now that we've made it this far, one final piece of trivia I want to leave you with is that Isayama-san admitted to being a ghost kind of guy who likes movies such as Paranormal Activity. He likes things that quietly creep up on you rather than making you jump in your seat. It doesn't have to scare you necessarily. Rather, he prefers the bizarre and the strange, which we definitely see in the show. This is Aaliyah with Beyond the Frame, Attack on Titan Season 1. Are we in? Are we out? What do we think? Let me know. This show really set the stage as one of the most thought-provoking animes of all time. I would love to hear how you feel about this show, as well as any interesting facts you might have learned in season 1. And as many of you know, I am an anime nerd with a fascination for trivia. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. じゃあ、またね!